What's going on, everyone? Hope you're having a great day, and welcome to the Tundra Dude 34 YouTube channel. As most of you know, I just finished up a week with the very sought-after 2022 TRD Pro Tundra. It was in midnight black metallic with the cockpit red interior, which I didn't think I would absolutely love, but I will tell you, in person, it is pretty awesome. Now, a lot of people don't really care for a red leather interior, but to me, being it's the TRD Pro, which is the special edition trim, I thought it looked very, very good, very premium, very special edition, if you will. But if you don't like the red on the interior, good news, they also have a black leather, so you can choose whichever one you like. It was a good week. The hybrid engine was awesome. Today, we're gonna go over some pros and cons of this truck. And I want to hear your comments below. I know some of you love the 2022, and some of you very much dislike the 2022, but I say this in all my videos. If you are not a huge fan of this new generation Tundra, good news, because that 5.7 liter V8 Tundra you have, it's going to last a long time, as long as you take care of it. The 5.7 V8 is very reliable, practically bulletproof, so enjoy your 14 to 21 Tundra, even your 07 and up Tundra, because that is when the 5.7 came out. Like I said, if you take care of it, it will last forever, and maybe over some years, the 2022 will grow on you. But let's talk about the time with the TRD Pro. Now, one thing I was very happy with is back in February, I spent a week with the 2022 Limited TRD Off-Road. Now, that had the regular 3.5 liter twin-turbo I-Force engine, and this Pro had the hybrid, so I was able to see both engine options and which one I like a lot more. Now, I have a playlist on each of these trucks if you want to go see them, but when I got in the Limited and I drove it, I didn't feel like it was something that really got my attention. It was like, you know, a kid on Christmas. I was waiting for something for Santa to bring me, and it wasn't there. It wasn't a bad engine. It wasn't a bad experience. It just took a lot to get what I wanted out of it. Drive mode, the sport mode did a lot for that Limited. You know, and you kind of had to learn how to drive. There was a little turbo lag here or there with it. So my experience, it wasn't the worst, but it wasn't the best. You know, I still felt like it was very on par with the 5.7 V8. Now, this hybrid was something else. The driving experience is a lot better. It reminded me a lot of my time with my supercharged Tundra. 10-speed automatic transmission, flowed like wine, no big deal at all. You could barely feel it shift. There is sport mode, regular, normal, and eco. To put it in whatever you want. But the truck is a lot of fun to drive, and I had a great time driving it, and you know, it's really not geared toward MPG. You know, if you take your time and hypermile, you could get some good MPG out of the hybrid, but it is geared more toward power, torque for your towing, hauling, stuff like that. But it is a great driving experience. But without further ado, let's go over some of these pros and cons I wrote down over the week. I will tell you right off the bat, there are a lot more pros than cons. Do I suggest buying this vehicle? Absolutely. They're just going to be very hard to find. And I also suggest folks go out there, and if you could test drive the regular I-Force and the I-Force Max, which is the hybrid, please do so. But the good news is the hybrid is such a fun driving experience. It is going to be very hard to get the TRD Pro, but the hybrid is offered in the Limited trim and up. Okay? So if you like the hybrid, you might have an easier time finding it, maybe in Limited 1794, Platinum, Capstone. Capstone and TRD Pro are offered in hybrid only, so keep that in mind. But let's talk about a few pros and cons we have here with this 2022 Tundra. We'll start with some pros. That's the easy stuff here. Number one for me is the hybrid powertrain and 10-speed automatic transmission. Absolutely flawless. There was no turbo lag. The driving experience was a lot of fun. It got up to speed very quickly, a lot of power. And it was a great driving experience. And talking about this on the channel and hearing what some of you guys think, the truck felt a lot lighter than the old generation because of the power coming from the engine. It never felt like it was slow. It never felt like it lagged at all. It always got down the road very, very sharp. You know, it wasn't a bad experience, not one time. It always felt very powerful. The good news is, too, it wasn't one of those situations where it always was annoyingly fast or annoyingly powerful. If you wanted to drive it nice and easy, you could do that, no problem. And, you know, it wasn't like you were getting on the pedal and lurching forward all the time or anything like that. The driving experience is what you make it, but it is a very, very fun engine, especially versus the I-Force. The I-Force Max is the engine Toyota is talking about when they, you know, say things about the truck. I think it's awesome that it's in things like the TRD Pro, but I love the fact that they make it an option with the limited and up, so everyone could have a shot at it. So the hybrid powertrain was absolutely amazing, and I've driven a lot of Tundras in my life, and it was one of the best Tundra driving experiences I had. It's great to know that Toyota is offering an engine in this Tundra where you don't really need to do much to get it to where you want it as far as power and power delivery with all that, because this thing definitely is amazing right out of the factory. Number 2 kind of goes right along with this, and that's drivability. The handling of the truck, everything felt very tight. The frame, everything works together to get you down the road. That is one of the lines I've been using with this truck, even back with that iForce Limited I had. The truck is a completely different animal. Something I've said in other videos about this truck is it's not a good or a bad thing. It's how you want your truck to feel. So when we talk old gen versus this current generation, some will like the older generation. Feels a lot more like a truck. The 14 to 21, the 07 to 21 feels a lot more like a truck. There's, some body sway, there's some brake dive. It feels like an old school big V8 truck. It's loud. This is the exact opposite of that. This is a very tight driving experience. Handling is immediate. It doesn't feel floaty at all. There is no brake dive. It's a completely different driving experience, and some will love it and some will hate it. So that's why I'm stressing test drive. But overall, a very tight feel all the way around. The truck also feels very well built. I didn't have any issues with, wind noise. People were complaining about wind noise that they're getting in the truck. In my 2022 Limited that I tested back in February, I had a little wind noise in the beginning, but all I did was I put the window down and put the window back up. It was almost like it didn't get up into the track right, and then everything was fine after that, and I didn't have any wind noise. But it's just like the old generation Tundra when it comes to listening for the creaks and the sounds, and obviously over the miles and over the time, we'll be able to see if there really are any issues. But for the time I was with this truck for a week, I didn't feel like the truck was out of sorts at all. Everything felt great. So that's one thing for sure. The suspension felt amazing. I wanted to test out that Fox suspension, with the new frame and the new platform and everything, and it's still amazing. Fox did a really good job with tuning the suspension for this truck, just like the last TRD Pro. A big high five to Fox on that. But overall, the truck is a completely different animal from the last generation when it comes to the feel, the drivability, 100% different. So you're either going to love it or hate it depending on how you want your truck to feel. A huge pro, I've been saying this since the beginning, is the seats. We're actually sitting in a 2022 1794 seat right now that I built into an office chair. It has good bolstering down low around your stomach, and even better bolstering down, around your thighs. Holds you in the seat really well. You sit down in the seat instead of on top of the seat like the older 14 to 21 seats, which aren't not comfortable. These are just way more comfortable, and I feel like on a long drive, if you're someone who takes your Tundras on long drives, this seat you will love a lot because it is very comfortable. It is very soft. The leather feels premium, so that's something to keep in mind. Heated and cooled seats, or heated and ventilated seats, I should say. And obviously there's memory seats on the Pro and everything, but they are very, very comfortable and a huge pro. I found no cons with the seats at all. This is one for you. This is something a little bit different. Another pro for me is the uniqueness of the TRD Pro now. I mentioned this in a video the other day. I've always been a huge fan, huge enthusiast of the TRD Pro trim, regardless of which truck it's on, not just the Tundra. But with the Tundra, I always liked their approach of it being still a less is more truck, even though it is a limited trim, limited quantity trim. It says TRD Pro stamped on the side of the bed. It's body color. You could put an inlay in it if you want it to stand out, but it's very basic. The truck is, body color in black all the way around. There's not a lot going on the outside. You get that heritage grille like that, on the front of the truck. It doesn't have a ton going on that screams special edition, but I like that in the truck. But now some of you have been saying through the years you wish the Pro stood out as its own thing a lot more. And I feel like this next generation TRD Pro that we just tested does that. It has unique wheels. It has a new Toyota Heritage grille. It still has that less is more look on the outside, which I think is a great thing. It says TRD Pro up on the sides of the hood. It has TRD Pro stamped in the tailgate. But when you get inside is when you start really seeing that unique part of the TRD Pro. You get that crazy red interior if you want it. It's got the TRD on the steering wheel. It's got the red strip at the center of the steering wheel. It's got the sport pedals, red strip on your shifter. it looks more like something unique versus yesteryear that was pretty much a Tundra that said TRD Pro. I like a lot of the things they did with it now. It's kind of its own deal. You could see it has a little bit wider of a stance. It's unique versus some of the other trims. It looks a lot different. In small ways. Obviously, it's not like a Raptor versus an F-150. It's not all the way to that direction, but it is something that's a little more unique than some of the other ones, and I always like that, because you're buying something special, you're spending a lot of money on it, you want it to stand out versus the regular truck, and I think one of the biggest ways they did that here was with these BBS wheels. They look great, and that big front end, which is, very unique. It has camo in certain spots on the truck, over the fenders, over the wheel wells, I should say, down in the front bumper where it says Tundra's camo, and across the tailgate on the top, it has a little camo to it, which also makes Midnight Black Metallic a great choice because it all blends in together very nicely. How will it look on other colors? That remains to be seen. But the uniqueness of the Pro was definitely something that I thought was a thumbs up on this one. Again, it's not overdone. It's still that less is more approach. I'll put up the shot right now. If you look at the side of this truck, if you weren't in the know, you wouldn't even know this is a special edition truck. I like that in it. It's not screaming loud that this is special. It still is that nice sleeper looking truck, but there are a few more things to make it unique when it comes to the TRD Pro. So uniqueness was definitely something for me on that one. Last but not least, if you're into this kind of thing, a lot of you have asked for this over the years. You wanted more features when it came to the next generation Tundra. Well, with this Pro, you get a pano moonroof, which is always good. No one can hate a pano moonroof, I wouldn't think. You get the big 14-inch infotainment screen, which before I drove the truck, before I sat in the truck, I really felt like that was a bit much. Like, who needs a screen that big? But I will be honest, when you get in and you drive it a little while, it's not annoying. It's not something that's so bright, it blinds you when you're driving at night. It dims out really nice at night. You get around it pretty good, I guess, which we will talk about in our cons momentarily. But overall, it isn't annoying. It is something that looks unique. They wanted to have the biggest screen. They got the biggest screen in the half-ton segment. But overall, it really isn't as bad as I thought it would be. That was one thing that kind of I don't know if I would like this. But, when I got used to the truck and the layout, it all kind of fits well together. If you don't like that, they also have an 8-inch screen available in certain trims. So we have the big screen. We have that 12-inch digital gauge cluster, which I think is very, very cool. It has all the stuff in it that the old analog gauge cluster has. It's just, it's cleaned up a little bit, but it's easy to use. It's easy to toggle through and everything, and you can switch it the way you want to. You have the boost gauge. You have the battery gauge for the hybrid. Everything's in there. I thought it was really unique looking and very, very cool. When you turn the truck on, it has a big Tundra splashed across it. It's just a nice little add-on to a very limited trim. Like I said, you're spending the money. You want to see some unique, cool stuff. It's chock full of features. We still have the window that goes all the way down in the back. Please keep that in mind. And you get your drive modes now. You get the Eco, the Normal, and the Sport. You get multi-terrain select, crawl control, locking rear diff, some of the things you guys asked for along the way. So when it comes to features, this thing has a lot of features in it. So if you were someone that was always asking for them, you now have them. I don't know how many more you would want. But that is my list of pros that I came up with. The truck, like I said, overall, it was a big pro. But those are some of the things that stood out to me. And you gotta love the look of a TRD Pro, regardless if it's like that, the 15 to 17 behind me, the 19 to 21, or the 2022. That heritage Toyota on the front, that's awesome, and that's cool, and that is unique. So let's go to some cons. Some of my cons, they're very basic. The truck overall, like I said, I had a great time with it. Con number one, I said this in my last 2022 with the Limited, that wireless charger. Not a huge fan of it. I like what they were trying to do, but the angle isn't enough. It doesn't hold the phone in place. So when you put the phone down to charge it, it'll start charging, no problem. But the minute you hit your first bump, it breaks the charge. So that is something going forward I would hope they would work on. All they need to do is when you sit the phone down, there's a little piece on the side that holds the phone in place. They need to have a little adjustable one on the other side to really hold that phone in place, and you would not have any issues whatsoever. But for now, the wireless charger definitely needs some work. Another thing, which some of you will like, some of you will dislike, there are a lot of driver nannies in this one. There's a lot going on, center lane assist. If you start to go out of the lane a little bit, you'll hear the beep. Now there's a vibration in the steering wheel you can select. It will center you in the lane. There's, pedestrian detection and all that. All the Toyota safety sense stuff that's in the truck now. You get the backup. When you're backing up, you get the sensors. You get there's a tone. It'll mute your radio. And the tone will increase as you get closer to something, which isn't a bad thing, so you don't slam into a garbage can in a $70,000 truck. And it has front sensors as well. There's just a lot going on. So if you're someone who likes that real less is more approach, this is something you might want to know going in. There's a lot going on with all sorts of stuff, keeping you from hitting anything. So keep that in mind. So there are quite a bit of the driver nannies to shut off. Most of them do turn off, so if that's something you don't want on, that's a good thing there. But I had to put that in the cons because when I first got in the truck, the lane centering thing with the the beeping every time I even if I was going around a turn and I came into the turn like out of the lane a little bit, it would beep at me and try to center me in the lane. I don't need that. I'm fine without that. So that's a con for me. One I want to say for a con, but I think over time would turn into kind of a purgatory, not a pro or a con, and that's getting around the infotainment system. It's fairly easy to use. It's not hard in any way, but when I connected my Apple CarPlay to it, I found it hard to get from Apple CarPlay back to the Toyota system without having to really pay attention. And the whole point is non-distracted driving, of course. And I would have to learn this thing over time, because you want to keep your eyes on the road and everything. But to go back and forth between Apple CarPlay and the regular Toyota system was kind of a pain. So once I was on Apple CarPlay, I was just on Apple CarPlay. It's wireless now, Apple CarPlay, so it's not like I could just unplug the phone and it would go back to the other screen like in the older trucks. So that is one thing. Again, over time, I'm sure I would get used to it, but for that week, that's something that will end up on the con list for now. Here's another con for you guys. It is a very quiet truck, maybe too quiet for a lot of you. There is sound, engine noise pumped in from the JBL sound system. When you're getting up to speed, it sounds like the TRD dual exhaust. It is a very good sound, but a lot of you will feel like the truck is just too quiet, especially with this hybrid, because it goes between the regular engine and the hybrid system when you don't really even know. It'll just be quiet all of a sudden. You look down and there's no oil pressure and no RPMs. And then it's on battery. So that changes at will. You don't have a choice. It does it automatically. The truck's, it's trying to get you the most efficient setup possible. But it is very quiet. So if you're used to that big V8 with the TRD dual exhaust and a lot of sound coming from a classic half-ton pickup truck, this is something you will have to get used to because quiet is an understatement. It's a six-cylinder now. It's no more of a V8. So coming out of the tailpipe, you're not getting a lot of noise. There is a little roar. It has that same kind of sound as a Raptor does, if you're into that. So keep that in mind. This is a single exhaust, like a single outlet with a dual tip on it. So keep that in mind. It has a TRD dual tip on it. It looks cool. It is now coming out of the driver side. But the noise, there's not much there. Speaking of noise, let's go the other direction. Another con, the composite bed is very noisy all the time. Every time you're going over a bump, you hear that bed rattling and shaking. There's one road particular that I go down that they just replaced a big, pipe system out of. So they laid a strip of new concrete over it or blacktop. And when you ride over that, you don't really hear the spray-on liner in the old truck, but you really hear this composite bed shaking and banging all over the place when you go over that road, even with the windows up. So that is something I had to put in a con because it was noticeable to not just me, but my wife, who wasn't looking out for things like that. So if she notices it, I got to put it on the con list. So that's one thing as well. It does have the setup of the Tacoma when it comes to the composite bed. It has an outlet in it. It has some bed lights now. So I applaud them for going forward with some of the stuff like that. But that composite bed, quite noisy. Last but not least, it's more of a to be determined. I'm going to say fuel mileage. Now, when people hear hybrid, they think Prius. They think vehicles like that can get these insane MPG numbers. This, for a hybrid system, as I said in the beginning of the video, is more geared toward your power, your torque, your towing, your hauling, stuff like that. I'm sure you could get great MPG out of it, but that's not necessarily how the truck is set up. With my time with it, when I was driving around the city and around the town, I was getting about 15.5 to 15.7 in the truck. When I took it out on the highway, took my time. I only did I think it was like a 20-mile trip on the highway, just going easy to see what I could do with it. I was getting up into the 17s. But mind you, the truck only has 2,000 miles on it. Stuff really isn't broken in yet completely. So I'm sure I could get that truck up to around 20, 21 mpg if I really tried, especially on a long trip. So it really depends on, if you want to spend the extra money when it comes to hybrid. That's another $3,000 to $4,000 if you go the hybrid engine, if you're all about that mpg. But some people were saying, that's not great numbers for a hybrid engine. But one thing you should keep in mind too is if you're driving the 5.7 liter V8, spiritedly, we will say, you'll probably be getting down 11, 12 mpg, something like that. With this, I was driving it like it owed me money most of the week, and I was still getting up around near 16. So again, is there more that we could do with the truck? I think over time, when I didn't just have it for a week and maybe I owned it, we could, drive the truck a little bit easier, take some highway trips on it to see how good we could get that mileage, let the engine break in a little bit, and, that's where we could go with it. So I'm putting the MPG as a to be determined. I need more seat time. Obviously, I always need more seat time in this new truck to determine any more pros and cons. One con I thought about right now that I think a lot of you will agree with, we can actually say two of them. In the hybrid, you get no underseat storage in the rear. Non-hybrid, you do. Hybrid, that's where the batteries are. So keep that in mind. There is no underseat storage, and there are no tow hooks on any of the 2022 Tundras, which I feel that in 2023 or 2024, we're going to start seeing tow hooks come back. I'm not sure why they're not there, but a lot of you would like to see tow hooks on it, and it is a truck. It should have tow hooks. So that is a con. That's a basic one that could easily be installed. I'm sure a lot of companies out there right now are working on fabbing some kind of tow hook for this Tundra, for the front bumper. But for now, people feel like, hey, I'm spending this kind of money, I should get tow hooks. So that is definitely a con and something I'm sure they're working on. Hopefully we see that in the next year of the Tundra. But overall, my week with the TRD Pro was a lot of fun. Beautiful truck. Like I said, I'm a huge TRD Pro enthusiast, so it was cool to get in the first year of the new generation TRD Pro. So let me know what you think in the comments below. What are some of your pros and cons from just seeing the truck? I know a lot of people haven't driven it yet. This was a pre-production press vehicle, so I don't have a price for you as far as a sticker. Most of them come with their window sticker to give you an idea of what is on the truck and the cost. TRD Pros pretty much come one way. You don't really build into them. I think if you go on the Toyota website, the one thing you could add is tow mirrors if you want that. But this truck MSRP is around $67,000, $68,000 before any kind of markup or anything like that. Just MSRP alone. But yeah, let me know what you think of this truck in the comments below. Until next time, Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook at TundraDude34, TundraDude34@gmail.com. If you want to see all the videos I made on this truck, there is a playlist, 2022 TRD Pro Tundra. Go check that out. Also, while you're over there in the playlist section, check out the 2022 Limited, and that, again, was the non-hybrid engine, and you can kind of see what I think between the two engines, but that hybrid is definitely something worth checking out if you're looking to get into a 2022 Tundra. All right, folks, until next time, be well.